Hey, beautiful creatives. Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast. Thanks for joining me, your host, Nicki Traikos. I'm an artist, letterer, instructor, and creative business owner. I started and built Life by Design from home while raising a family and learning how to juggle it all. This podcast is my way of pulling back the curtain and inviting you to step into my home studio so we can get candid about all things art, business, and life, so I can help you create a life that you design. Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Life by Design, the podcast. This episode is all about my advice from growing as an artist, but also the evolution of being an artist, mindset, and everything else around that. Before we get into this episode and everything that I have to share, I just want to let you know that this will be our last one for the season. Season 1, 18 episodes in, and lots of great information so far. What I've done is looked at all the episodes that I've recorded and created to date, and I'm really happy with what I've shared so far. And now I feel like it's a time for me to plan the next season and what direction I want to go with not only the topics that I'm sharing and talking about, but even the idea of bringing in some guests and having some great conversations. I'm not sure what season 2 will look like yet, but I am open to any suggestions from you about what you'd like to hear more about. So please do comment, email, let me know your thoughts. Starting this podcast was a passion project of mine, and I'm just really happy to have been able to share my story and experience with you. So if you've been tuning in so far, thank you again for your time, for your attention, and I hope that you've been inspired along the way to follow your creative passion and just to be light and free with how you express your artistic side. So on that note, in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about mindset, and I'll share with you my personal mindset and experience with considering myself to be, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, to be called an artist, and the ideas around how to grow as an artist. So what that may look like and how you can make small mindset tweaks around growing as an artist and even just calling yourself an artist. I think that's a biggie. So we're going from the usual physical experience for growing as an artist that I always like to share with you. If you've ever taken a class with me, it's always been the advice that I give around practicing and making sure that you allow yourself the practice and allowing yourself the opportunity to make mistakes and then even practicing more. Okay? Because it's with practice and even that repetition that you grow your skills, you grow your confidence and your artistic style. And even just that joy you experience when you put brush to paper or pen to paper or spatula to paper, whatever you're doing. The most important thing with painting and expressing your art is to be okay with all the work you create, whether it's good or bad or however you want to label it. Just enjoy all the color come to life on your canvas as your brush glides across the page and you start to express your creative and artistic side. Okay? So wearing the title of an artist can be really intimidating, especially if you're like me. You didn't go to art school or you don't have a degree in fine arts, or if you can't name off 100 artists and the movement that they were a part of and the emotions that they evoke in their masterpieces. It all sounds intimidating, doesn't it? I feel like as artists, they're often, or artists in general, are often judged by their techniques, maybe their finished piece, and then their art is open to interpretation by the person observing it. So the people who are observing your art, they come in with their own ideas of what art should be, quote unquote, again, air quotes, or what art should look like and how it's to make them feel. So you see, art isn't about the art itself. It really isn't. It's about the perceptions and ideals and labels and egos of those who are observing it. So yeah, I'm talking about fine art really, and that's what I imagine when I think of the grand title of artist. So the pieces that you see in galleries and museums and of great master painters, because growing up, that's what I thought an artist was. I didn't know anyone who was an artist or even who was in a creative field when I was a kid. My parents were new immigrants and worked hard at their 9-to-5 job. And in high school, I always did well in my visual arts class. And when it came time for post-secondary, my heart pulled me towards college and maybe looking at art schools. But my work hard mentality, which was very common with kids who maybe have parents who are immigrants, they came here for a better life and they want you to work hard and do well. But the idea of working hard is completely different. So my hardworking mentality convinced me to follow the crowd, go to university, get a secure job so I could get married, buy a house, and raise a family. All fantastic things. But again, I didn't have the influence of anyone who is in a creative field where I can say, yeah, they're living their artistic passion and they are thriving and making a living from it. So while I was in university, struggling to find a major that I enjoyed or connected with, my heart still called me towards art. I share this story in the first episode of the podcast. So if you want to hear more about it and you're connecting with what I'm saying, go ahead and listen to it. It's the very first episode in this podcast. And it really does share some insight into the journey that I experienced and how I started Life I Design. So for right now, I really want to talk about mindset. So I'll get back to that. So for now, we'll just chat about mindset, okay? So while I was in university, struggling to find a major that I enjoyed or connected with, my heart still called me towards art. I always wanted to be an artist and always found ways to be creative or express my passion for art and that artistic side, but my limiting beliefs around what an artist meant or what the title of being an artist meant or how unworthy I was even to think that I was good enough to be called an artist, they all held me back. I had no idea I could be an artist and make a living from my art. There wasn't a clear path for me. And in my limited beliefs, I didn't even think that being an artist was even a possibility for me. So I think back at my mindset all those years ago, and it really makes me appreciate everything I've learned and even everything I've relearned, and how blessed I really am right now to be able to enjoy being an artist and even having that very thought of art and the way that I can express my art and create a thriving business be what it is today. Because really, it's all about doing what I love and being able to live a life that's passionate and that's creative and thriving as a business and making money from it. So it's my job. So let's go back to the past for a few more minutes. Those past ideas, so they were ideas that had no value other than that value that I placed on them myself. So no one ever said, or there was always opportunity to be an artist, I just didn't know it. So those values and beliefs are something that was imposed by me from me. And I want you to think about that for a second, because often it's our limiting beliefs that hold us back from even the idea of learning, researching, and exploring the idea of being an artist and what that means. So there really are so many different types of artists and ways that you can be an artist and express your art and make a good living from your art. I feel like, and if you paint something, photograph something, build something, you're an artist, period. I feel like with technology and the internet, it really allows us creatives a way to reach people who want our art, who appreciate our talents, and who want to have a piece of what we create. So, however that looks, I'm going to read to you the definition of an artist. So, an artist, by definition, is a person who produces paintings or drawings as a profession or hobby. That's it. Simple, right? Like just very simply defined. It's not someone who is considered to be good at art or someone who has painted in watercolors for 10 years, accumulating 10,000 hours of experience. It's not someone whose art hangs in a gallery or who has a master's in fine art or art history. It literally is someone who produces paintings or drawings as a profession or as a hobby. So profession or hobby. I'll repeat that so it sinks in a little bit more. So my questions to you are, do you like to paint? And do you paint? So good or bad, however you think they look, beginner or advanced, I don't care what those answers are, but if you paint, good or bad, and you are a beginner or an advanced artist, you are an artist. So whether your techniques and skills or you're just starting out, the mere act of putting down a brush to paper means that you are an artist. That's it. End of story. So it's really that simple. I know it's a belief that swirls around your head that may lead you to feeling like you're not good enough to call yourself an artist, or that you don't have the qualifications that maybe you associate with being an artist, or you're still really new to art and consider yourself to be a hobbyist or a student. Regardless of all of those things, I want you to flip that switch in your mind and know that even if you are a student learning art, you are still an artist. Okay, I really want you to understand that point. So it doesn't matter if you've been painting for a few days or even a few years or your whole life, in fact. We are all artists if we are brave enough to lift a brush, put our marks down, and express our artistic side, whether it's for fun, whether it's for personal pleasure, or maybe you sell your work or license it or gift it, whatever. Now, how you evolve as an artist, that's a different conversation. So, everyone has individual goals for why they paint. And I'm going to use paint here as my reference going forward just to make it simple. And it's my focus right now. So, everyone has their individual goal for why they paint and also how they express their artistic side. So, some people show their work and sell it. Some people paint for the pure joy that they feel when they create it. Some maybe paint as a therapeutic release, whatever your goal is. Let's say you've accepted your new title as an artist, and that's with a capital A, and you're beginning to evolve and grow as a new artist. I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like. So, when you're starting out, you are learning, absorbing, and watching other artists, looking for colors maybe that they use, motifs that they paint, and even the tools that they covet. And that's great because as you learn, and I recommend you find multiple teachers to learn from or multiple sources as you learn, because you'll be able to start to dissect from each experience little aspects of art that may stick with you and grow into your artistic style as you're evolving. Okay. And there'll be ones that you'll leave behind, and that's fine. So, for example, when I was learning acrylic painting with an instructor years ago, I loved the range of colors she used and painted with them myself so I could explore the palette more. And that helped me decide what colors would stick with me and what colors really didn't make me happy or excited to pick up again and again. Okay, so using her example of palette, I was able to draw in a few colors that really have stayed with me all of these years because they fit me well. And those colors may evolve. They may come in and out of my palette, through time. But again, that's sort of what I took from her instruction. I'll use calligraphy as an example. When I started learning calligraphy, I took classes of teachers whose styles I wanted to emulate. So I would try their lettering in their style, and then I brought in elements that I loved and created my own unique style. So I guess the first part of evolving as an artist is that you have to learn, you have to copy and try on to see what fits. And then you can let go what doesn't and make it all your own. So, yeah, I did say copy, but I want you to know that it's okay to copy something when you are learning and practicing and growing, as long as you're not sharing it to the world or selling it and claiming it as your own. Okay, so we all copy. We copy masters, they copied each other. If you listen to my Creative Book Club episode, you'll have a few of my favorite books that I recommend you read. One of them is called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It's episode number 12. If you haven't listened to it yet, I recommend it. Cue it up and read that book. Okay, so it's okay to copy elements of other artists and styles and colors as you're evolving and growing as an artist. But again, remember, when you copy to the point of sharing something that looks identical or extremely similar, I would definitely urge against that. Okay. But as you're learning, go ahead, copy what I'm painting, copy the colors that I'm using, and see what fits and what's right for you. So, this takes me to the next point of evolving as an artist. If you wear the title of artist, I think you'll agree with me on this one. You will always be evolving as an artist. That never stops. Each time you sit down to paint, you get better, you connect more deeply with your art, and you better know who you are as an artist. So, this happens every time you sit down to paint, whether you notice it or recognize it or realize it. Okay. You never stop learning as an artist, and you never stop evolving as an artist. You mature, maybe change direction, you deepen your skills or even broaden your skills. My acrylic painting experience affects the way that I approach my watercolors. And each time that I paint an abstract, that affects how I may approach a realistic acrylic painting. My mood affects my color choices in my painting. The season that we're in, that all affects, again, my mood and what I'm painting. So you're not stagnant. You're always growing, evolving, and experiencing. And that's so damn exciting, especially if you keep your pieces and you follow your art journey closely. So if you don't keep pieces that you're working on and practicing on, I highly recommend that you do. I have sketchbooks and pencil drawings that I did in high school. And that makes me feel so nostalgic and appreciative of my journey. And then it supercharges my desire to sketch more and to paint more and to enjoy my art practice more as I continue to grow and evolve as an artist. Okay. So I encourage you to keep maybe keep a good selection of your work as you're going. And then another thing I encourage you to do is that you make sure to sign and date your pieces so that when you do refer to them down the road, you will know exactly when they came to life. And in those moments, I feel like you can truly appreciate how much you've evolved as an artist. Okay. So the last point I want to make about evolving, growing as an artist, it's something that I share often, and it feels like when we are sharing posts on social media and even sharing with friends and family, I feel like we tend to get very censored. We live in a world where we edit photos for social media before we post them. We make sure that we show the best sides of things, whether it's our life, our art, whatever. What that often does is it gives us a skewed view of life and what's expected of us. And I am totally guilty of that. My Instagram pics are all edited. I agonize over what to write in my posts. I don't show the messy side of my studio or the pieces of art that I don't love. I do show the messy side in my classes, though. And I show you pieces that I paint as I'm painting them. And these are in lessons. And I don't love them. And I'm doing this because I want you to know that it's okay to create art and those pieces that don't speak to you or that you don't love, because the paintings that you don't love are often the ones that you learn from the most and you'll revisit again, because along with painting the things you don't love, that practice and repetition is key. So be okay if you don't love every painting or every creative experience when it's done, is what I'm trying to say to you. Don't over edit. Don't put that pressure of all of your painting sessions need to be successful and amazing and your best piece of work. Be okay that you're allowed to have off days and off paintings and that you have the freedom to move on. What I want you to get from those experiences is just to be excited that you spent that time on your art and practice, knowing that the next time you sit down to it, you'll have a completely different experience as an artist sitting down to paint again. Okay. I often feel like that actually. Each time I sit down to paint, I'm approaching my desk as a different person. I think what I really want you to take away from this episode is just be okay with making art. That's it. Don't worry about the end result. Just be okay with making art. Be okay with the title of artist. Be okay with your journey, whether you are just starting out or you're transitioning into a new medium or style. I want you to be okay with trying on other artist styles as you learn from them and as you see what fits for you and what feels good for you. And know that not every art session will be your favorite, and that just the act of sitting down to practice is really where the joy and pleasure all exists. Okay? And if you want to be an artist and make a living from your art, I want you to know that you can. And that there are so many opportunities for you to be a thriving artist, and that your journey will look different from my journey and from someone else's. It really is an exciting time to be an artist. Once you start exploring your path, you will be happily surprised. Okay? So that's it from me. Now go off and paint something, because you are an artist and your art is important. And whether you choose to share it or not, or just create it for yourself, I want you to make some art, good or bad. So on another note, if you've been in my newest watercolor classes and are diving into all the lessons and projects and enjoying it, I want to say thank you. The feedback has been so inspiring, and I love reading all of your comments in class while I enjoy my first cup of coffee in the morning. If you haven't joined the class yet, but it's been on your mind, I want to encourage you to sign up, take the lessons at your own pace, watch and rewatch, because you have unlimited access when you sign up, and come try on my artistic style. See what fits, see what feels good as we paint flowers and leaves and stems and so much more. Thanks for tuning in to episode 18 of this podcast and our season finale. I appreciate you spending this time with me as we grow, evolve, and enjoy being artists together. Who knows what next season will hold? I know that I'm open and I'll continue to brainstorm new topics and even revisit past topics. We'll see what happens. Thanks again for listening and spending this time with me. Stay connected with me on Instagram at Life I Design is how you can follow me. And also stay tuned for more updates and things that are coming out in the next few months with my newsletter, and that's lifeidesign.com. Okay, so bye for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll